what's going on, everybody? My name, of course, is Chad, and this week we're looking at another Tuttle special. Now me, I'm sure, like a bunch of you guys, learned our kana, for the most part, from an app or a YouTube video, but in a land before time, when monkeys were humping cats, or whatever evolution is, people use books. And I think people still use books. I am one of them. This is Learning Japanese, Hiragana and Katakana. And according to the back, it is a, tweak my glasses here, systematic and comprehensive coverage of the two kana systems necessary to read and write in Japanese. Now, putting the sarcasm aside, I actually enjoyed this book. Paid for it myself. I wanted to see what it was like. It happened to be used and on sale on Amazon during Black Friday. So, is this book still worth it, or is it a relic of the past? And frankly, should you, someone stepping into Japanese in the 21st century. I really hope I'm not so lazy I didn't add a vocal effect there. It's supposed to go century. Is it worth it for you guys to pick up a book like this, maybe if you're struggling or if you're super brand new, maybe buying it for your niece or nephew for Christmas, or should we just stick to our apps? That's what I check out in this week's Japanese Resource Review. Let's step into it. Alright, let's see. Yep. Welcome back to the hands-on reviewing table. This week we are looking at Learning Japanese, Hiragana and Katakana by Tuttle, which I'm sure many of you guys remember Tuttle. They're a pretty big name. This book was put together by a Kenneth G. Henshaw and a Tetsuo the Iron Man. No. Now, you guys will probably notice up here there is a little bit of damage through the back of the book. In fact, you'll see it back here. This is not the book's fault. I actually bought a used copy. And you can see that whoever had this previously, hey, if this is your book, let me know in the comments. That'd be hilarious. They got, through the first 4, and then either gave up or just decided that this book wasn't for them. Either way, I'm happy to have it now. And my initial thoughts coming in, just being honest, is I don't think most people need a set book to learn at least these two systems. Frankly, just with the spread of technology, right? Maybe at one time this was very, very well. It's just not something that I used. It's not something I don't think most people actually need, but I'm happy to be proved wrong, and Tuttle has made some pretty good stuff over the years. I will say one of the things that made me a little extra special, sketchy about it is, I doubt you guys can see it, but $13.95 is the standard price for this. I, however, got this used copy on sale for $7. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I don't think that there's any kana solution worthy of $14 US, at least not today with all the apps and free websites and YouTube videos. But hey, let's assume, maybe you can get a used copy of this. Let's take a look through that lens. And before I get any farther, as always, I will say, I am not showing you every single page of this book. I want you, if you enjoyed this book, to go purchase this book. I will only be showing what I think is necessary for a good and solid review. But first, starting with that, you can tell a lot about a book by the explanations that it begins with. And the truth is, this is overkill a ton of the time in this book. I mean, it talks about the origin of kana, which is fine. And certainly it gives you, the full charts that you always expect to see in all of these books. But then it starts talking about like the weird versions of You guys can see here in the back, I'm sure there's probably a bunch of you learning that are maybe in the intermediate phases that don't even know about these uses. And that's because it really isn't something that a beginner really needs. It's not something that you encounter at all in modern Japanese, at least not in my experience, living and working there and just everything that I've done with Japanese. I learned about this, but way later. And so I just think that this is more than you need when you're learning the kana. And I think a lot of this is frankly fluff. Like, there's no way a beginner's gonna need to remember these symbols and these uses. Again, we're starting off a little weird. The other thing I will say, I applaud them for having online audio files. I much prefer that to CDs. I think CDs are worthless. You guys know my opinion on those. But frankly, CDs or audio, whatever it is, for a textbook, makes some sense, right? You can hear them pronounce words and you can hear pitch and accent. But the fact you're doing it just for kana, there are so many free resources on YouTube, on free websites online. I really don't think that this is worth it. Maybe downloading each syllable to put into like an Anki or a Memorize SRS deck, but frankly, you're going to be through these pretty quick, and you're going to pick up on all of the pronunciation as you go. So I just think for what this book is explaining, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of fluff. To continue on, this is the format of basically every single one of these. You have a, I, u, e, and o. As we go farther, you can see the stroke order, which they also give you down here. Again, 1 and 2. I think it's pretty obvious which stroke is 1 and which one is 2. It seems like they're just filling space, which is fine, whatever. Another thing that's kind of weird, they start you off like, here's the origin, and you can see how it changed over the years. And not that that's bad, but it's like, if you're already at the point where you're just trying to read as in car, I don't think you're ever gonna make the connection of like onsen, uchujin, or whatever, right? It just doesn't seem like that's gonna happen until much later in your Japanese anyway, so I just don't think, not that they're bad, but I just don't think it's that necessary to have that. Also, one of the reasons you guys should just go on YouTube anyways and listen to people pronounce the alphabet, right? I thought this was really funny. A as in car, car, but shorter. And that works fine if you speak normal, but if you're, if you speak a little Boston, park the car and Harvard Yard, you're gonna be saying katakana. That's my terrible attempt at a Boston accent, and thus having audio is helpful. But it's just funny to me that thinking of regional accents or even accents of English all over the world, you might be getting some weirdness in some of these. Now, at the end of each one of these sections, you can see we went through a, I, u, e, o, kaki, ku, ke, ko, the A's and K's. Instead of just doing what a lot of books here would do, which is just have you write it over and over or fill in the blank or something like that, what they do is they actually give you words, which is an added bonus. That is something I didn't expect, and I will give them all the credit in the world for it. So you have I, love, ue, above, oka, kiku. Although the differences in these are in pitch, so I mean, we'll see how a beginner separates those. But throughout the book, they have a bunch of these, and at the end of each chapter, it's usually 22 of them, which is 22 words just learning the ahs and kas, which is actually pretty interesting, pretty good. Now, obviously, it doesn't come with any pitch accent, it doesn't come with any kanji, so you'll probably relearn those kanjis as you enter into a beginner textbook. But over this entire book, I counted, it's more than 400 individual words that you're going to be learning through just these reviews that you could put into an SRS. And I think that if you're like before a Genki 1, if you're just starting, or if you're about to join a Japanese course in university or in high school or something, and they require you learn kana first, hey, you're also jumping in with a few hundred words. You're actually a little bit ahead of the curve, which I think is pretty sweet. And you can see near kind of when you're getting to the end of all these, they're getting pretty complex and complicated. It's actually pretty good practice. Then, of course, they get into the voiced and unvoiced syllables, and then now you're really into the practice of how all of the language comes together. And of course, all the chapters end with a general review, which is actually pretty sweet, I think. Then, of course, part 2 is katakana. It is essentially the exact same thing. So I don't really need to go into that. Then finally, there is a part 3, a final review, which you can come and see that essentially this is all just one final practice with everything. You have, fill in your own kana charts here, which is actually, I think, a pretty cool idea. Now, you learned all these cities and islands and stuff in the previous chapter, so it just lets you practice writing all these. You can see they actually have some really nice ones to practice chisaitsus and extended vowels. I'm a little mad they put Fukuoka at the bottom. I'm going to be shaking my fist at Tuttle for that. Tuttle, whatever they called it, the printing company. But yeah, it's just extra practice. And it obviously comes with all of the stuff you need to check your own answers. Closing thoughts, for $14, don't buy it. I mean, that's just my opinion. I've had my hands on over 40 of these that I've reviewed for you guys so far. It's really just... it's just not worth $14. $7 on a used market, maybe if you're struggling with kana, or you're brand spanking new and you have a lot of textbooks that you read that intro bit that barely talk about the kana, but you don't feel like you know it very well, maybe this is a fine workbook to get you through it for that. If I can recommend Tuttle and Mr. Henshaw anything, just me being in the modern language space, I would say skip the printed version of this altogether and make this an online PDF, put it behind a paywall, and make it like $4.99. I guarantee you, you're not making the 14, but nobody's probably going to pay for that, at least not nowadays. If someone is paying the 7, you're not getting that money anyways because it's the used market. So at $4.99, $5.99, whatever, you're keeping all of that money, and essentially you're going to send them a PDF of this book that they can print out and work at their own pace. I feel like for that amount of money, like a $5-6 book, now you're in the marketplace for what I would consider a workbook for these topics would be. But mind you, if you're just a regular learner of Japanese, I would say try the apps, try YouTube, try the free websites first. If you're not struggling and you get it pretty well, you don't need this book. But then again, these are just my thoughts. You guys probably have your own opinions on this, and that is A-okay. I want to hear it, but before we get there, let's switch back to Studio Chad. Alrighty, you guys caught it all. Those are my thoughts on learning Japanese, hiragana and katakana. But I'm only one obnoxiously loud voice in a sea of other obnoxiously loud keyboards. So please, if you are interested, if you maybe see something that I don't see, if you see a value that I wasn't able to visualize myself, it's okay. I'm okay with being wrong. Leave a comment down below. Tell me all of your thoughts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you like this video, be sure to like it down below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or compliments, please leave them in the comment box down below. I do personally read all of them. Hey, if this video added value to your life, maybe consider subscribing to my channel. We just hit 20,000 of you magnificent some guns, and I'm really appreciative. And now we march to 30. You can also support my channel monetarily or societally. Check out my Discord. I have links down below. That's my Chad on Twitter, Chad Zimmerman on basically every other platform. You can also check out my books on Amazon. I author several language and culture related books on there. Patreon, the Manga Club, all of these things are ways for you guys, if maybe this added value to your life, to support me. Now have a wonderful week. If you're subbed, stay after the outro for the sub-only outro. I always do these to show something fun or new behind the scenes with me and my travels. But if you're not subbed, hey, I appreciate you for stopping by. I hope to see you next week. Love hard, love deep, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.